For starters, I just want to talk a little bit about, what this event is and why we're doing this. So this is the 3-day elite hitting blueprint. Okay. So we're breaking this down into 3 separate days where we're going to go through the proper sequence of the swing. Okay. So after the end of these 3 days, you're going to understand how to use your lower half properly, how to have the proper bat path to stay inside the ball, to have gap to gap power. And you're also going to walk away with drills and a hitting plan to make sure that you see the success and the results following this simple stuff. Okay. So Wes and I, obviously we've done this with a ton of players, and we understand the simple and easy way to break down the swing to make it relatable to the player, whether you're in the pros or you're 6 years old. The simple process that we're going to explain over these next 3 days will work literally across the board, no matter what age or skill level of the player. Wes, if you would kind of just introduce yourself, and we'll get rolling.
So, yeah, I'm Wes Helms. I am currently the CEO of CamWood Bats, but I'll give you my backstory. I played 12 years in the major leagues, played almost right around 17 years total, including my minor leagues. So 17 professional seasons. I did not go to college. I was drafted out of high school by the Atlanta Braves, played for the Atlanta Braves, the Milwaukee Brewers, the Philadelphia Phillies, and the Florida Marlins. And I was basically the first major leaguer to use the CamWood Hands and Speed Trainer. This was back towards the end of my career. And I'll tell you my story later of how that came about, but that's what got me involved with CamWood. And then I've always been involved with CamWood here and there. And then over the last few years, it kind of evolved into, hey, I want you to, do more with CamWood, because it was my passion to develop players. I mean, I played 12 years in the major leagues. Yeah, that's great. But my passion is to give that knowledge to the players of today, young, high school down, college, professional, whoever I lay my hand on, I want to be able to help them. And CamWood was a platform for that, to be able to get me in front of a lot of people with the CamWood company. And also, I wouldn't put my name on anything that I knew did not work. And with CamWood, I know it worked because of what it did for me with my career at the end of my career when I got the Hands and Speed Trainer in my hands. So that being said, that's where it came about, me being with CamWood. It was all on the development side. It had nothing to do with, game bats, products, or whatever. I wanted to develop players in baseball and softball to be the best they can be. And that's where we are today. I mean, everything we teach is what's going to better you for the game, which is why we play. We don't play to be the best practice players. We play to be the best game players. So everything Trey and I teach is going to make you a better player in game, which is my passion, to be able to get players to that level.
Yep. And that's the main thing is, what we're going to cover today. Yeah, this is going to work not only off of a tee and off a front toss, but this is actually going to work in game. Okay. A lot of the stuff you see today looks really good off the tee and off a front toss in a cage, but then you get out to the field and you struggle in game, right? So, and you see that a lot in today's game, Wes.
Well, and I'll go back to what you said before, Trey. Like you said, we're kind of old school. I don't even use the word old school and new school. I mean, when people ask me, hey, is CamWood old school? I'm like, no, it's not old school. It's not new school. It's hitting. And that's what I tell people. Like, the things that we're going to teach you is the things that will make you better in game against the best pitcher on the mound, because I know what it takes to hit the most elite pitcher. I did it for 12 years. I know exactly what makes you the most consistent hitter off of that type of arm. Some of this stuff that you're seeing on social media, some of it's great, but some of it's not going to play in the game. That's what I look for. It's going to play on short toss. It's going to play on the tee. But once that ball gets moving and you got velo and spin, change of speeds, whatever you want to say, it's not going to make you a better hitter. We want to make you the most complete hitter we can. So I wouldn't say we're old school or new school. I say we teach the complete package of what it takes to hit the best pitcher on the mound that given day.
Yep. So in this live, like I said, during these 3-day events, obviously we're up in front of the camera right now talking. We're also going to be back here on the tee demonstrating drills and showing you exactly how to do exactly what we're teaching, right? So it's not just going to be us talking to a camera. We're going to actually be demonstrating and teaching you as we go as well, okay? So for those of you that don't know who I am, my name is Trey Sykes. I'm the owner of CamWood Bats. And, growing up, I was always known to just be a good hitter, right? So whenever I was a young kid, I just dominated through the ranks. And I ended up getting to high school whenever you go up to that drop 3 bat. And a lot of kids struggle with that transition of going from, the drop 10s and the drop 5s to the drop 3. And a lot of that has to do with their mechanics. And I was the exact same way, right? You put that drop 10 in my hands, I was pulling and I was hitting home runs forever over the fence, right? Then you put the drop 3 in my hands and I couldn't adjust to that weight because I didn't have the proper mechanics in order to make that adjustment. So my junior year in high school, I hit 180 my junior year. I was a backup first baseman. And as you know, 180 batting average is not very good, right? So I knew that I only had 1 season left. So I wanted to give it all my senior season, just to put all my effort, all my focus into it to see if I could just become a better player. And after the season was over, I remember we had a practice. We had about 2 weeks until our first summer ball game. And I go down to the cage just to get some extra swings in after practice. And I'm down there hitting, and I'm just yanking. I'm pulling everything. At the time, I was a dead pull hitter. Literally, you could put nobody on the opposite field. I'm not hitting the ball over there. And I'm sitting there hitting, and some random guy walks up behind me. And, I just look around, and I'm like, who's this dude? I could tell he's literally just staring at me as I'm hitting. And he stops me and says, hey, why don't you try to hit the ball to the opposite side? And I look back, I'm like, who is this dude, right? And just to try to prove him wrong, I tried to hit the ball to the opposite field, and I couldn't do it. I just didn't know how, right? So after that cage session was over, I walked out, and he came up to me, and he said, hey, if you focus on it and you put in the time and the effort, I will teach you how to hit. And literally, I just came off a season where I hit 180. I had nothing to lose. And I had this random guy saying that he could come and help me. So I took him up on his offer. And come to find out, he ended up becoming my hitting coach for my entire career. And his name was Frank Gregory. And Frank is actually the creator and the inventor of the CamWood Hands and Speed Trainer. So over the next 2 weeks working with Frank, he had me working with this bat. And we get to my first summer ball game. I remember it's like crosstown rival. And there's a lefty on the mound. And I remember it to this day like it was yesterday. Lefty throws me a 2-seam that cuts right back over the middle of the plate. And I just put a great swing on it. Up to that point, I'd never felt a ball come off my bat the way that one did, and ended up hitting my first high school home run out to left center. So I literally remember touching home plate, sitting down at the bench and thinking to myself, like, this is what I need to focus on if I want to maximize my senior season, because I knew I only had that 1 year left, right? So fast forward, ended up hitting over 300 for the first time in my career, my senior season. Ended up walking on in college and becoming a Division I All-American. So I literally went from a 180 batting average to a Division I All-American in just 3 seasons after I started training with the CamWood Hand and Speed Trainer and doing the drills and the mechanics and the approach that we're going to show you today, okay? So what we're going to share with you today is extremely powerful, and it's what took me and skyrocketed my career and into becoming a Division I All-American. All right. So the first thing that I want to do is, a lot of people will see this bat right here and they're like, well, what is this? You heard Wes say he was the first player or MLB player to use a CamWood Hand and Speed Trainer. So what exactly does this bat do? Right. So you see this big bulge right here above the hands. So this is an overload trainer, which means it's a heavier bat. But all the weight is added right here above the hands instead of in the barrel, okay? If the weight was in the barrel, this bat would be way too heavy to swing, and it's going to break down your mechanics, okay? But with the weight added right here above the hands, this bat's going to feel a lot more balanced. It's going to feel a lot lighter than it actually is, okay? So whenever you start your swing, this weight above the hands is really going to promote you getting connected right away. So you're going to get connected first, and then it's going to allow your hands to stay inside that ball, which is going to let the barrel of the bat stay in the hitting zone all the way throughout your swing. It's going to maximize your chances of barreling the ball up, okay? And that's literally the reason this bat right here was created, was to teach that proper bat path of getting connected and staying inside the ball. And because this is an overload trainer, you're going to see the strength and the bat speed and exit velocity increase as well. It's kind of just the icing on the cake, right? So this tool right here is pretty much an all-in-one that's going to teach you the proper bat path, but also get you that strength gains and the exit velocity increases. So Wes, whenever you first started using the CamWood bat, what kind of like made you, I would say, what did you like about it as you picked it up in the cage and started using it?
Yeah, I'd already been in the big leagues a while. And, you know, like I said, I was kind of probably 3/4 of my way through my career. And what happened was it was laying in a cage in Florida with Florida. I was in spring training with the Florida Marlins. It was laying in the cage one day. And I picked it up and I'm like, man, this thing feels great. And I looked, you know, it was 34-inch bat. And, you know, I'm like, okay, I had no idea how much it weighed. You know, it was a +12, but I didn't know. And to be honest with you, when someone told me later that it was a +12, I was shocked because I was like, there's no way that thing's this heavy, because all the weight was distributed down here. I didn't feel the weight of the bat. I mean, I was holding it with one hand, swinging it around or whatever. So I got in the cage that day. John Maley was the hitting coach. I got in the cage that day, started hitting off the tee, you know, short toss. I was like, man, this thing feels good. I was like, you know, John Maley looked at me. He's like, man, you are literally like on plane staying through everything. And I was like, but I'm just swinging. I was like, I'm not even thinking about it. He's like, Wes, you're so top hand dominant. He's like, you're a top hand dominant hitter, but right now I would literally say you were a bottom hand dominant hitter just because the way you're swinging the bat. And I was like, well, that's good, because that's what's gotten me in trouble in the past, is I would get too far out with my top hand because it was so quick that that's why I used a heavy bat. I used a, you know, 34.5-inch bat, 33 ounces, because I wanted that weight to keep my hands back instead of letting them fly. So this training bat basically fixed me with not even having to think about my top hand. I mean, I didn't have to like think, don't get the top hand out too early. Don't get the top hand out, because where the weight is, it kept me, you know, where I needed to be, palm up, palm down at contact, which is where every hitter wants to be on a perfect swing. So that being said, it basically cleaned me up without me even thinking about doing anything else. Yes, I was a big leaguer. I already had the swing. I didn't have to have a certain drill to fix me or anything like that. So I was already above kind of everyone else that grabs this training bat. So that being said, I was just, you know, to get my point across, is it cleaned me up. Even me being as long as I had been in the big leagues, it even cleaned me up even more just by putting this training bat in my hands. And I'll be honest with you, I really do contribute it getting me an extra probably 2 years on my career by using this, because as you get older, you lose your fast twitch muscles. You might lose some bat speed. You know, some guys have to drop down in bat size because they just don't feel as quick. Well, this allowed me to stay the player I was with my quickness and delivering the barrel to the ball on time. And I owe my last 2 years of my career on this bat. So that being said, I mean, that's what sold me on it. And the next day, funny thing, the owner shows up, had no idea he was going to show up, but one of the guys in there that had the bat had been talking to Frank Gregory. Frank Gregory shows up. I built that relationship with him, and that was history. Now, you know, we've known each other ever since.
Yep, that's funny. It's like you're the first MLB player to use the head and speed trainer, and I was one of the first players in high school, or any of the players to use the bat. So that's awesome to hear those types of stories. But I actually remember Frank calling me and telling me that he finally got a big leaguer using the bat, and it was you. I hadn't met you yet, but I remember him calling me that day that he was down there in he was the AA with the Marlins at the time.
Yep.
Yep. But so going into the two things that we're going to cover today, we're going to cover approach and bat path. Okay. So we're going to start with approach, and approach is one of the most important aspects to the swing. And it's one of the most forgotten things, right? The mental side of the game is one of the most forgotten. So I know me personally, whenever I was in high school, like I said, I was a dead pull hitter. So when I look back at it, it's like, well, why was I a dead pull hitter? And when you start thinking about it, I was trying to pull everything because I wanted to do damage, right? I wanted to have that power. And I thought that if I pulled the ball, I was going to have more power than if I could hit the ball to the opposite field, right? I could do more damage to the pull side than I could the opposite field. And I literally shut off half the field, right? And that's why I was a 180 hitter, is because I was so focused on pulling everything that I was limiting my mechanics, right? So I still remember to this day, like we're working with Frank. You know, Frank's teaching me this approach of we look for fastball away to drive away and we react inside, right? So he's trying to get me to take that fastball away and drive it to the opposite field gap. And in practice, I can do that all day long. Off the tee in the cage, I'm doing it perfectly, right? And then I would get into the game, I would get into game speed, and I would always revert right back to what I was used to doing, which was pulling the ball, because that's just what I was comfortable with, right? So Frank would come to all of my games, and I remember that to this day. You know, he sits me down, he pulls a chair up, and he said, "Look, if you don't focus on this, if you don't take what we're practicing in the cage, if you don't take that into the game, I'm going to quit working with you." Right. So, you know, it's at that moment I had to make the decision of, okay, well, should I keep going or keep trying to pull the ball, or should I just trust this guy? Right. He's, you know, taking all this time to work with me for free. So I was like, all right, this next game, I'm going to focus on it. I'm going to take the fastball away, drive it away, and I'll react to anything inside. So first at bat, I get a fastball that's up over the plate, outside part. And because that's what I was looking for that fastball up and away. I drove that pitch to the opposite field gap and ended up hitting it off the top of the wall in right center for a double. And I remember, like, that at bat right there is what literally unlocked my entire career, because I just proved to myself that I could do damage to the opposite field, right? I could hit a home run to right center just as well as hit one to the pull side. And whenever that clicked for me is when my career skyrocketed. So, Wes, when you hear that approach, look away, drive away, and react inside, you know, what does that mean to you?
It's a good point, because here's the thing. Here's the thing I want everybody to understand before I go into detail. We are not trying to make you an opposite field hitter. So many people that hear this approach, they're like, well, I want to drive the ball. I want to pull the ball. I mean, you know, my son might just try it, or my daughter might just try to hit everything the other way. No, it's an approach. It's not you are trying to do it every time. You are thinking, that's my approach. Your eyes are going to tell the barrel where to go. You'll hear me say that a lot. The eyes tell the barrel where to go. But if we don't get into that proper position to stay inside the ball and drive the ball to all fields, our eyes can't do what they're supposed to. So therefore, if we're thinking pull, 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 we cannot react away. If we think away, we can react in. That's just the way the body works. So that being said, you always want to think, I'm driving the ball to the big part of the field, to the opposite field gap. That's always an approach, unless you're facing a pitcher that is constantly pounding you in. Yes, of course, we're going to change our approach. But majority of pitchers, you're going to sit opposite field gap to center field. And when they come in on you, you're going to react, because you got to think about it. At amateur levels, you don't have those type of arms consistently that you cannot react in on if you sit away, because they don't throw that hard consistently at the lower levels. As you get older, you have to start eliminating zones, which we're not going to talk about that today. But I want you to understand, overall, this is a majority. A majority is, I'm going to sit away, because what it does, it lets the ball travel, which we'll talk about. It lets the ball travel. It puts our body in the position we need to be able to cover all zones if needed. If we just think in, we can't cover away. But if we're thinking middle away, we can cover away, we can cover middle, we can cover in, because that's the way our back hip is pushing the barrel through the zone. If we start pushing the barrel inside, we cannot go back to the outer half on that pitch. So understand, we train a certain way, so therefore in the game we can react in the proper way. The hardest thing to do in hitting is hitting the ball to the pull side with backspin. I'll guarantee you, if y'all brought 20 high school players in this cage right now, and I told them, hey, I'm going to throw to you, or I'm going to front toss. I'll even go elementary and front toss to you. I guarantee you, there might be 2 or 3 out of those 20 that can pull a ball with backspin. Every one of them will top spin the ball to the pull side, because they use their upper half, their shoulder, or they open their front hip and try to pull that pitch rather than naturally letting their body react to the inside pitch. There's a difference. So when we have the approach, opposite field gap to center field, we're going to hit the ball with backspin to the opposite field. We're going to hit it with backspin to center field, and we're also going to pull the ball with backspin. That's how you drive balls to all parts of the field with your different contact points. So for me personally, That's all I need to say when I say that is with that approach, you're going to hit backspin to all parts of the field.
Yep. And me and you talk all the time. And you always say there's a lot of adjustability in the swing. And that's what a lot of kids nowadays are lacking, is that adjustability. So, just to hone in on the look away, drive away, react inside, the reason we do that is because if I'm right here and I'm set up on this tee, I have this pitch on the outer half, and I'm focusing on taking this outside pitch to the opposite field gap. So if I'm right here, boom, I'm inside that ball, I can drive that pitch to the opposite field gap because that's what I'm looking for. But let's say I'm looking for that pitch and they bust me inside with a fastball. Like you were saying, you have to adjust to that inside pitch. So if I'm right here on that outside pitch, the only thing that I have to do to adjust to that is just get a little bit more rotation with my lower half, because I've recognized the inside and I'm able to react to it. I get a little bit more rotation with my lower half, and it allows my hands to work inside that ball, and I'm still able to barrel it up and get the proper extension through it, get that good backspin to the left center field gap, right? But if I'm having the same setup and I'm focusing on pulling this inside pitch, I'm focusing on pulling that inside fastball, well, I have to go out there, I have to open up, and I got to get the barrel or the bat head out there quick, right? So if I'm focusing on pulling that, boom, I'm already opening up, I'm already flying open. Well, if they throw me an off-speed pitch away, I am screwed. There is no way I'm able to touch the spin stuff on the outside part of the plate if I've already opened up and flown off that ball, right? Does that make sense? So if I'm in that position right there, I'm swinging, I'm hitting it off the end of the bat, or it's going to be weak contact, swing and miss every single time, right? So that's why we have that approach of look away to drive away and react in, because we're able to have that proper adjustability in the swing.
Yeah, the back hip does more when you react in. So therefore, I go back to the eyes tell the back hip what to do. So you're going to hear me say that a lot. Whoever's on here, the eyes dictate everything. So that's why when we train, we have to train a certain way off the tee, off front toss, off BP with proper approach, because now we're training our body and our eyes to work like that. And then all of a sudden, the ball comes in. When the ball comes in, it speeds you up. It's naturally going to speed you up. But if we train in, two things are going to happen. We're not going to hit the outer half consistently, but then when we speed up, we're going to hit a red line, and we're going to over speed up. We're going to over top spin, or we're going to pull it foul, and that's what we don't want to do. The balls you need to keep fair, and they need to be driven. The balls that you foul off are balls that you should foul off. So therefore, you got to understand, if we train a certain way, our eyes and our mind and everything's building muscle memory. Then in the game, when we see that pitch, our back hip and our hands and our barrel are going to naturally speed up to get to that inside pitch with reaction.
Yep. And, Wes, me and you working with a lot of players, they'll come to us, or a parent or somebody will come and say, my son or my daughter, they just keep rolling over to the pull side. Like they literally are rolling over to the pull side, hitting off the end of the bat. They're getting jammed. How can we fix that? And immediately your mind wants to go to mechanics, right? Well, one thing that I want to hit on is approach can fix your mechanics. If your approach is the right way, and your approach is look away, drive away, and react inside, then you're not jumping out and trying to go get that inside pitch and pull everything. You're letting that ball travel, and you're able to stay back and drive that pitch to the opposite field gap, which is going to help your bat path or your barrel stay in the hitting zone all the way through. So if you're constantly pulling everything, and your approach is pull, you literally could fix your mechanics by just changing your direction, changing your approach of driving the ball to the opposite field gap.
Yeah, I'll tell you a story about that. Chipper Jones. So I'm in Atlanta. I'm taking BP, like I said, top hand dominant hitter. And I am literally driving balls over the shortstop's head and, to the left field side, like even left center, I was driving balls. But it has that slight little top spin to him. And I'll never forget it. He looked at me and he goes, "Hey, don't you change your direction. Don't change your mechanics. Let's don't think palm up at contact. Well, let's don't change any of that. I want you to try to do the same thing you're doing now, but let's drive this ball as hard as you can right back up the middle to the second baseman. Let's just shift the field. And I remember in BP that next round, I tried to drive every single pitch dead center to right center, right over the second baseman's head. And it literally, I was just peppering, just nuking backspins, just boom, boom. I mean, I can remember Andrew Jones in center, and I'm literally hitting line drives right at his chest, just catching them right in his chest. The ball wasn't dying. It wasn't top spun. It was just kept carrying and carrying. That night in the game, I'll never forget it. We're in the ninth inning. Alan Embry comes in. This is a lefty throwing 96 to 90, 98 miles an hour. And most people would say, like most people that don't know hitting, they're like, oh my gosh, you got to get it ready. You got to get it going. He's coming at you. He's got 98. Where I used that approach Chipper gave me that night. I said, you know what? No, I'm going to get there. I'm going to load and get to my hitting position on time. That's always the most important. But I'm going to think I'm driving this ball over the center field fence. And I literally stayed my approach center to right center. And I tried, and he threw one. It was probably 96 to 97. He had a little arm side run to it. So it kind of, had that little tail. And I literally hit probably like a 440-foot homer, center, just the right side of center. And I come in the dugout, and I'll never forget it. Chipper goes, I told you. And he's like, you don't have to try to pull the ball. The guy's throwing 97, 98 miles an hour. You still don't have to pull him. You don't have to get the barrel there. Your barrel is going to get to the ball, Wes. It's going to get there if you have the right approach. You actually are going to get the barrel there quicker if you have the right approach, because your eyes and everything naturally tell it where to go the right way. If you try to get it there, you're actually going to be slower getting the bat there. That's when you're going to top it. That's when you're going to get jammed. That's when the bad things happen on the pull side. But if you literally have that approach, center to right center on these guys, I promise you the barrel is going to get there. If you get to the hitting position on time, you will do some serious damage to the big part of the field. And that day on, it just changed my career, thinking of how my approach needed to be in game consistently against majority of pitchers.
Yep. I remember even in college, like if I have a game where I'm rolling over to the pull side, I might go, 0 for 4 with 2 or 3 rollovers to the pull side. The next day in BP, my very first round, I'm seeing how hard I can hit the ball on the ground to the second baseman. Like I'm trying to drill the second baseman's head off with straight line drives in that first round of BP. And the reason you do that is changing your direction is going to keep your bat in that hitting zone all the way throughout your swing. It's going to fix those mechanics of trying to pull everything and coming around it. So speaking of Chipper Jones, Wes and I actually had the pleasure of interviewing Chipper for about 45 minutes or so. So one of the clips, we'll get to the full interview later, but one of the clips was really good on approach that I want to show you right now. Okay, so Chipper Jones, obviously y'all know Austin Riley with the Atlanta Braves, the third baseman. Whenever Austin came up, Chipper was the one that was working with him. And Chipper talked about how one of the big adjustments that they made wasn't just, it wasn't the mechanical side, it was the approach side. They changed his sights. Okay. So I want to share this screen right here with you. And I want to show you or share with you that video. Okay. Boom. Do you see it, Wes?
I can see it.
All right. So I'll play it. You can tell Austin Riley took a change with his approach at the plate. And he had a hell of a year this past season. But you can see Austin started using the entire field. And that's what allowed him to start being that better hitter. And the averages started to go up, and the power numbers went up as well.
Well, Austin, we didn't change anything mechanically with Austin. There's nothing wrong with Austin's swing. We just changed his sights. We, as opposed to trying to hit the ball out of the ballpark from left center field to the foul pole like we were talking about earlier. We got a huge State Farm sign in right center field, right there in the middle of our bullpen. And I'm like, Austin, I'm telling you, if you try and knock down that State Farm sign every single pitch, a couple of things are going to happen. Your contact point's going to pick up because you're going to let the ball travel. You're going to have your bat path is going to stay in the zone longer. Therefore, you're going to make more contact. Secondly, your chase rate on pitches outside the zone is going to go down. Why? because you're allowing the ball to travel. Now that slider that's off the plate that's been giving you trouble, you see it now because your sight changed. You're not flying open to try and get the head out to hit it to the left. You're letting it travel and trying to hit it out to the right. Now your chase rate goes down. You've seen his strikeouts go down, his walks go up, just for the simple fact of changing his sights from left center to right center.
So I'll hit on that real quick. You heard him say one thing that stood out. You see the pitch now. If you let the ball travel and your approach and direction is where it needs to be, it allows your eyes to stay still. If I'm constantly up here, looking to pull like this, it allows my head to move too much. It allows my eyes to move too much. That's what I don't want. If you heard Chipper, he was talking about it allowed him to see that slider away now. Because what it does, it keeps your eyes still. Just by changing your direction doesn't just clean your mechanics up. There's so many things that go into that. Like he said, the eyes. It allowed his walks to go up. Guess what? Now you're laying off pitches that you normally used to swing at. So therefore, it's not just cleaning your mechanics. It's helping you become a complete hitter. Now you're going to walk on pitches that you normally swung at and maybe put in play weekly, or you might have swung and missed and struck out. So therefore, think about all this stuff when we're talking about it. Like, it's not just about the bat. It's not just about the swing. It's about being able to see the ball. It's about being able to lay off pitches. It's about being able to be yes, 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 no, because my head is still, my direction is right back, center to right center, so it keeps everything in line so I can do those things. Because if I'm yes, 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 or yes, 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 no, if I'm yes, 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 no with this, then I'm not going to be able to hold my swing up, because it's going to be yes, 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 no. And I'm going to be out here like this, and I'm not going to be able to hold my swing up. I'm probably going to check swing more. I'm going to swing at pitches I shouldn't. So understand that. The approach of it changes everything as a hitter. And you heard Chipper say that. And, of course, Austin Riley is a phenom, but he also goes through struggles as well. And at that time, he was struggling. But just hearing that probably made him take off and do the things that Austin Riley does.
Yep. So, like I said, obviously, we've been talking about this approach: stay away, or look away, drive away, react inside, right? And okay, the person's watching this right now is like, all right, I understand that I need to do this. Well, how do I do it, right? How do I teach my son or my daughter or my player how to do this approach? So, Wes, what's a good drill for people to do to teach this?
Best drill. Okay. Put the tee on the outer half. I mean, literally right on the top corner of the plate on the outside corner. Getting your normal stance. You're going to have a person front tossing in front of you. The person front tossing is going to throw the ball middle to inside corner. I mean, I'm okay with even going a ball inside as well. So basically, you don't want to throw anything middle away to away, because that's where this ball is. So what you're going to do, the front toss person is going to toss. My approach is to hit the ball that is on this tee. My approach is I'm going to think, even though this ball's coming at me, middle to middle end, my whole thought process is I'm watching the ball come, is that ball, I'm hitting that ball to right center. So therefore, you want the tosser to front toss, okay? Boom, and you're going to swing. So if he comes in, here. Okay, he throws another one, there. Then the front toss person is going to mix it up, and he's going to, boom, hold the ball and not toss it. So when he holds the ball, boom, I drive this ball off the tee the other way. The point of this drill is my approach is right center on the ball away. Middle to middle end, I'm going to hit those pitches with the same approach as I would hitting this one. So therefore, when the person that front tosses fakes the ball, I'm still able to go here to there and stay inside the ball, behind the ball. You'll hear me say that a lot: stay behind the ball and drive the ball. If I have this approach, pull, look what happens. The barrel comes around that pitch. More than likely, you're going to nub it off the end or you're probably not going to hit it. So therefore, if this comes this way, I can't react that way. But if I have the approach away, I can still react in. That's the whole point of this drill. It's one of the best drills I've ever done for myself. It's one of the best drills I've ever done with kids I've worked with to correct them in understanding the approach and that you will get to that inside pitch.
Yep. I remember coming to Alabama for us to do our film week, and I've never done this drill before. I asked Wes, I was like, what's the best thing for you to teach approach? And Wes told me about this drill, and I was like, all right, let's try it. Right. So I had never done this before. And I remember like it was like a baby giraffe trying to walk for the first time at the beginning, but ended up making an adjustment. But I want to show you a video of me doing this drill. Okay. That way, Wes just described it to you. But now I want to show you a video of me doing it. All right. So boom, we're going to share this.
And most recently, you can tell Austin Riley took.
I apologize. That's the Austin video. I just pulled up.
The one on the screen. The one on the screen was the front toss.
Well, it wouldn't let me play it. Like the Austin Riley video popped up.
Okay.
Yeah, I just have to find it.
So while he's finding it,
There
I
it
mean,
is. I
all
got
right,
it.
go ahead. Go ahead.
All right.
Good.
Yes.
So you see as I'm front tossing here, that ball's on the inside corner. He's pulling it. And Trey, go ahead and just keep playing it.
There you go.
And then when he goes away right there, there's no pause. I mean, basically it's all in one motion. So therefore, I don't want to pause and then hit it. I'm thinking away. I'm thinking driving this ball right center. So therefore, if it's tossed, I react in. But if it's not, I'm right when my front foot hits, I'm driving that ball to right field. So it shouldn't be stop and then swing. Everything works in one piece and one motion on this drill. And once you learn to master that, that's going to carry over to the game because now you've learned body control. As you see, it says stay back, stop lunging. It keeps you behind the baseball.
Yep.
We cannot do damage if we're not behind the baseball. We have to stay. If we get on out front over the baseball, we're done. This is a great drill, not only for the approach, but also teaches you balance, stability, body control, and just staying behind every contact point, which is huge.
Yep. And then just from a hitter's perspective, me doing this drill, like Wes was saying, as the hitter, I'm thinking and I'm focusing on hitting that outside pitch to the opposite field gap. If he throws me inside, then I adjust. I get the proper rotation with my lower half. I still stay inside that ball, and I'm trying to hit it to the left center field gap or back up to center field, okay? The whole key of it is to stay inside the ball and not spin off of it, right? So if I play this one more time, you'll see, like Wes was saying, if he fakes it, there shouldn't be a hesitation. It should be boom right there to the opposite field gap because that's what I'm already focused on, right? So again, he tosses it inside. I get that adjustment. I stay inside the ball. I don't roll over.
Very good. There you go.
So Trey, go back to the second swing.
Second swing. All right, hold on. The first one.
Good.
This
Right
is
here.
second. Play it.
Play it. If you watch, not that one, the next one, this one. If you watch this one, wait, go back to the beginning. No, the very beginning.
The very beginning?
Yeah.
All right. You're looking for the all right.
That one. So if you see, go back to where that contact point is on the plate. Okay. So if you see where that contact point was, that ball's middle in. He drove that ball just to the left of center field. When you have the proper approach and you stay behind the ball and your hands stay inside the ball, that's how you hit that ball. If I start my upper rotation with my shoulders and my hands do not stay inside that ball, I pull that ball to more toward the left field side and to third base. That's probably going to be a ground ball to third base or a top spin ball to left field. That's the difference in having an approach and not an approach, because he had an approach to hit that ball on the tee the other way. That ball came middle in. He actually drove that ball just left of center field. I wouldn't even say it was left center. So that's what it will do. It will clean up everything and allow you to drive every pitch that you swing at and make contact with.
Yep. I think this is a very valuable one here too. The one where you tell me good miss.
Yep.
Right. So we'll play this right here, and I want you to describe why this is a good miss.
Okay. So go back and try to pause it at contact if you can. Okay, go back one click. Right there.
There we go.
So if you look, his hands are inside that ball. Look at the angle of his bat and look at how his, he's not around the outside part of the ball there. With the proper approach, that allows him to hit that pitch with backspin. Now, that ball beat him. He actually got beat on that ball. But even when you get beat with the proper bat path, you're still able to put a good swing on the ball and drive that pitch. Now, if he wouldn't have hit the bottom half of that ball, that is a line drive up the middle. So that when I say good miss, I'm thinking solely on bat path and approach. Yes, he hit the bottom of the ball. So what? That's going to happen. That's human nature. But where you hit the ball is what I'm looking at with the bat path, the angle of the bat, your approach. That's what I'm saying. It's a good miss. Even though that ball went up and was probably an out in center field, that's a great miss, because with that approach, if he hits up on that ball another probably quarter of an inch, that ball is absolutely driven to center field for a line drive base hit. So if he would not have had that approach on that pitch, there's no way he could have gotten the barrel to the ball the correct way there. And even though some people say, oh, you got beat, it's okay to get beat. Trust me. You want to get beat as a good hitter. I would rather get beat than be out front and roll over, because therefore I know that my bat pass where it needs to be. So therefore I'm going to consistently barrel balls more than if I get out and roll over. So that's what I mean by a good miss.
Yep. I like that. That's a good explanation. So that's the thing is, I got to turn this. There we go.
We got one question real quick. I know we got
ahead.
one question. I don't want to leave them out. We got Tracy said fixed for constant hitting under the ball. And I know we had one up top. It said by actually Tracy again, backside collapse, how to fix it. High tee drill. I'm telling you right now, the high tee will clean up so much if your son or daughter is hitting everything straight up, or if they are collapsing this way, the high tee makes you get that. Okay. And no matter where you hit the ball, high tee or whatever, your barrel is always going to be below your hands. It's never going to be above your hands. So don't think you're telling them to hit down on the ball, or you really, really want to focus on high tee if you're hitting everything up in the air, because what that's going to do, it's going to clean up your direction and contact of hard line drives, but it's also going to build that muscle memory. You can't dip to hit that high pitch. You have to be direct to that high pitch, which over a consistent amount of reps is going to clean up mechanics.
Yep. So now what I want to do, obviously we've been talking approach for 45 minutes now. So I just want to hone in on one last thing on approach. I want to show you a video of Derek Jeter. So Derek Jeter, obviously y'all know his one of the best players. If he gets jammed or he's late inside, he's patented keeping his hands inside, and he's taking that inside fastball and he's shooting it to right field, right, for a base hit. So I want to go through and show you what Derek Jeter's approach is at the plate. All right. Let me share the screen. I got to pull his video up. Here it is. All right.
Is where they were at and how you stayed inside the ball. Here you are in 96. Ball's in the middle, and you stay through the ball and rifle it off that porch, off that short porch in right center.
It was predetermined I was going to stay inside the ball. For me, I wasn't good enough to guess pitches. I looked for one pitch every at bat, every pitch, fastball right down the middle. So I'd look fastball down the middle every single pitch, and my approach was to stay to right center field.
Absolutely.
And the reason why I would do that. I would stay inside the ball. So then I felt as though I was tough to pitch to because it gives you more time.
So Wes, you hear him say that. You hear him say that his approach was right center field, but he was predetermined every single at bat he was going to stay inside the ball because it made him hard to pitch to and it gave him more time. So what does that mean to you?
It gives you more time to recognize the pitch. It gives you more time to. So here's the thing. When we get on time, when we talk about being on time, of course, there's two things to think about. If I'm here, I got to get to that position on time. I got to get to the hitting position on time, considering who's on the mound, whether, hard thrower, soft thrower, I'm loading for all speed, fastball, whatever. That changes. Our different load timing changes, but we got to get to the hitting position on time or we can't do what we have to mechanically. So what he means by giving himself more time, the game is going to speed you up. Understand that. The game is going to speed you up. So therefore, the more I think right center, the more it gives me more time to do what I have to react to the pitches. If I'm over here thinking pull side, I have to speed myself up even more. So now I've sped myself up personally. The game has sped me up. Now I'm out of control. I can only hit certain pitches in a cube. I become a one-dimensional hitter, and that's not what we want you to be. We want you to be multidimensional, have adjustability during that at bat. So therefore, when I let the ball travel, it allows me to keep my head still. It allows me to keep my eyes still. It allows me to track the ball. If I'm consistently looking out here, left center or left field, I have to look out there to hit the ball. But if I think right center, it backs the ball up so I can track it even longer to do what I have to do. So therefore, your chances of success go up when you give yourself more time. And the only way you can do that is let the ball travel to keep your body under control, keep your head and eyes still. And that's what Jeter's talking about right there.
Yep, that's exactly it. Like I said, so I just wanted to hone in on approach. I think approach is one of the biggest concepts that nobody really talks about and nobody really practices and masters, right? Like I said, that approach right there can really change your game the way it did mine. Like I said, I attribute the approach side to being what unlocked my career and helped me become that better hitter. So I think we've touched enough. I call that our base approach. Wes said that, there's different approaches as you get more advanced, but that right there is our base approach. Okay. I know in college, I took that approach to probably 95% of my bats. Whenever I would change is whenever a college or a team was trying to bust me inside. If they're trying to throw me inside, then I would just make that adjustment and look for that pitch. But, 9 times out of 10, my approach is fastball away, drive away, react inside. All right. So enough on the approach side. So now I want to get into, a lot of people ask me the question. Obviously, I went from a 180 hitter to an All-American in 3 years, which is a really quick turnaround, right? Being able to go from a backup first baseman to walking on in college and seeing success right away. I saw more success in college than I did in high school. So why is that? Well, Frank, whenever he started working with me, taught me the number one key to hitting, okay? And the number one key to hitting is how to stay inside the ball. And I'm sure you've heard that term before, stay inside the ball, but you don't really know exactly what that means, right? Wes, I know me and you have talked. Miguel, you played Miguel Cabrera, one of the best players to ever do it. So tell me, what does it mean to you to stay inside the ball? What's the importance of that?
So basically, staying inside the ball means that we are getting to complete connection, which is the most important thing. You got to be connected. Once we start the swing, getting to connection is the most important thing. And our hands staying inside the ball, which means our hands don't get away from us. So basically, if I had to show you, like, staying inside the ball means I'm driving to connection right here. I'm connected. And I want to stay on that path of my hands staying inside the ball this way. If I get away from my body, my hands get around the outside of the ball, which we don't want. Because if my hands go away from my body, the barrel has to do something that it doesn't want to do, and it has to come this way. But if I'm here, Okay, getting to connection and staying inside the ball. My hands are being driven inside this baseball by my back hip. I'm not pushing. I want you to understand this, because there's a lot of people out there that say CamWood is a push swing. No, it's not. It's not. We do not do this. I am not pulling the knob through the zone. I am not doing that. I'm getting to connection with good direction. My back hip now is taking my knob where it needs to go with good direction. But look, I'm staying inside the ball, which allows my angle of the bat to hit the outside pitch here, the middle pitch there, and the inside pitch there. It does not, I cannot get my barrel around the ball and hit the top spin like we don't want. But when my hands come this way, I'm not staying inside the ball. My barrel has to come and go around this way, which is what we don't want. Now, I want to hit on that. People talk about barrel turn, barrel turn, barrel turn. Yes, you want your barrel to turn. Your barrel is going to naturally turn with hip drive. And let me explain that. So if I stay inside the ball, okay, if I get here to connection, my hip is driving my rotation and my barrel, my hip and my top hand. But look, I'm staying inside the ball with proper bat angle. I'm not this way. Okay, that's what I want you to understand. My barrel is going to turn, okay, as I get to my contact point, and it's going to turn even more as the ball is inside, because look, now I'm hitting that pitch there to keep it fair. My barrel has turned, but it's coming from here. I'm not turning it like that. I don't want to turn it this way. I don't want to like go that way. I want to be here, stay inside the ball, and let my back hip turn the barrel.
Yep, exactly. And like I said, Wes, me and you talk about all the time. Players now, they try to, I guess, force their barrel into the zone and that barrel turn. And they do that by turning off with their upper body. Whereas the rotation, the swing is going to come from that lower half. That's what's going to get that proper barrel turn through the zone, not the upper body pulling off, right? So a lot of people ask me that question of, why do I want to stay inside the ball? And I will show them this demonstration right here. This is exactly how Frank taught it to me, and that's what made the light bulb moment go off into my head. So this setup right here, I have these balls lined up in a row. It's mimicking a fastball coming into the zone, okay? So I want you to think about right now, a bunch of players try to pull the ball, right? So if I try to pull this pitch, I want you to see exactly what happens. So to pull that, I have to take my hands out, away from my body, away from the line the pitch is coming in on, to try to get my barrel head out and pull this ball, right? But if I do that, if I'm a little bit late, I get jammed, right? If I'm perfectly on time, I can barrel that up and I can drive that pitch to the pull side. But if I'm a little bit late, I'm going to hit that ball off the end of the bat and get weak contact every single time, okay? And that's why dead pull hitters are 220 hitters, 230, right? And that's why I was a 180 hitter, because the sweet spot of my bat was not in the hitting zone throughout my entire swing, okay, all the way through extension. So here's why you want to stay inside the ball. And I love the Derek Jeter clip. He said at the end that he focused on hitting the ball to the opposite field because it gave him more time, right? And I love that term. It gave him more time. Here's why. So if I'm sitting right here and I'm focusing on hitting this pitch and I stay inside it, boom, I'm connected, I'm inside. If I'm a little bit late, I can barrel that ball up and I can still drive that to the opposite field. If I'm perfectly on time, I'm driving that back up the middle for a line drive. And if I'm a little bit out front, I'm still inside that ball and I'm able to drive it with backspin to the left center field gap. Okay. So whenever somebody asks, why do I want to stay inside the ball? It's because it prolongs the amount of time that the barrel or the sweet spot of your bat is in the hitting zone. Okay. If I were to ask you that question right now, how many at bats are you perfectly on time? Wes, how often are you just perfectly on time?
It's actually been proven at the major league level 10% of the time. And you're talking about at the most elite level, 10% of the time. So I would say probably college down is even less.
Well, that's the thing. So if you're on time 10% of the time, hitting is not about what you do when your timing is on. Hitting is about what you do when your timing is just off, when you're a little bit late, when you're a little bit out front. Are you still able to barrel those pitches up, right? And if you stay inside the ball, it allows your timing not to be perfect, and you're still able to get that consistent contact and drive the ball to all parts of the field. That's why your best hitters, your Miguel Cabrera, Albert Pujols, all your top guys, they've mastered the art of staying inside the ball, and they can hit from foul pole to foul pole with power and with proper backspin. And Wes, I know you played with a lot of those guys.
No, yeah. I mean, I'm going to be honest with you. Every hitter I ever played with at the big league level that played, okay, let me explain this, that played a long time in the big leagues or was a Hall of Famer, every single one of them worked on staying inside the ball. And you hear a lot of things now, like, you know, I'll even say it. I heard a college coach say it a few weeks ago, like, you know, I don't want my hitters to stay inside the ball. And I'm like, good luck. I'm like, and then it's funny. I will never name schools or names on here when I talk, but I looked at their stats the last 3 years in hitting, and they were at the bottom of their conference. And I'm like, yeah, you might want to change that approach a little bit. You know, I'm thinking to myself, I would, you know, because when you stay inside the ball, it just allows you, like Jeter said, you have more time. Your barrel's through the zone longer, but the right way. It's going through the zone. You're staying on plane, and it's going through the zone with, you know, a proper bat path for, you know, probably 3 feet. Like I always tell people, we don't want to be one-dimensional and hitting a cube. We want to be able to hit in a box, especially against most pitchers. Like I said, there are exceptions to the rule. We have to eliminate pitches. If a guy's throwing 98 with a hard slider, yeah, of course, we're not hitting 17 inches and we're not hitting low and high. We have to sit zones. But I'm saying majority of your amateur pitchers and even in college, you know, majority of pitchers, you're going to, you know, you want to be able to hit in a big area, which comes from staying in the zone as long as possible.
Yep. So now, you know, obviously now that you know that you have to stay inside the ball, the next question is going to be, well, how do I do it? And we already had the question in here. How do I get my 12-year-old son to eliminate casting and rollovers? Is there any specific drills? So that's exactly what we're going to show you. We're going to show you how to stay inside the ball and the drills that we do to teach that movement. Okay. So what I want to do is, let's see, I should have the Mark DeRosa one in here. Where is it? I know I downloaded it.
So while you're finding that, did you find it?
Not yet.
So basically, just to answer your question about rollovers, I mean, that's where hitting's so much fun to me. Like rollovers can come from 2 things. You're either casting the barrel or you're not using your lower half and you're leading with the hands. So for me personally, like if we're trying to clean the bat path up and not worry about the lower half right now, then I would do a top hand drill, you know, where I get the tee and I want to, you know, get a short bat. And I really want to just do a top hand drill and stay up to the middle of the field this way, because that's going to keep them from going around, you know, with 2 hands. A lot of times with 2 hands, kids think roll the wrist, roll the wrist, roll the wrist. You know, that's not what you want to do at contact. You want to be palm up, palm down. You know, I want to get here, and then after extension is when I roll out of it. So top hand drill is really good with that. But I'll tell you one of the best drills, they call it the A-Rod drill, is if I'm standing here, I'm going to put this tee, I'm going to put it on probably about 2 inches on the inner half. So this ball is going to be middle end to end. I'm going to stand in my normal spot. I'm going to put it right on the front edge of the plate so it's deep. And I'm going to hit this ball right back up the middle like this. What that does, it teaches you to overemphasize connection and overemphasize getting those hands inside the ball. That's what this drill teaches. Because even if I working away don't always clean up staying inside the ball. Because you can put a ball away and kids can still get away from their body just because they might not have the concept of how to hit that pitch. You got to teach them how the body works, okay? Connection is everything. Connection sets up staying inside the ball. It's not the hands. It's this getting connected here with my elbow sets up being able to control this bat to stay inside that pitch, okay? So therefore, they call it the A-Rod drill. Put the ball probably 2 inches on the plate, right on the top part of the plate. Stand with your front foot, even with the front part of the plate. And this is where I'm going to be here and hit this ball at the middle. I'm not going to try to pull this pitch. This teaches you to get to connection and drive through the ball with that top hand, palm up at contact and to extension.
Yep. And like I said, I know I found the video finally, but whenever I start working with a player, if they're, brand new to me coming here to the cage and hitting, one of the first things that I'll do with them is with one-hand drills, because a one-hander will expose any flaw that you have in your bat path. Okay. Taking this one-hander right here, and if you put the tee on the outer or middle away and you tell them to drive that pitch to the opposite field gap, if they don't get connected and stay inside the ball as their first move, they're never going to be able to drive that pitch to the opposite field gap with backspin like they're supposed to. Okay. So I just wanted to show this video right here of Mark DeRosa. And if you don't know who Mark DeRosa is, he's an MLB analyst, played 17 years in the major leagues. And he talks about one of the biggest success stories that he has with his players is getting them on the one-hander. Okay. So I want to share this video right here with you. So I'll share the screen. Boom.
So the biggest drills that I feel that I've had success with my younger kids is a lot of one-arm. A lot to get them to understand for this. Since Soviet playing Turner Field late 90s, early 2000s, Sammy Sosa, you were Sammy Sosa was taking flips in the cage, and he was doing one-arm drill. And I went in there, didn't know he's in there to hit off the tee. Started talking to me, and I asked him what he was thinking. He goes, for a right-handed hitter, the bottom, this has to be your steering wheel. Like, you have to take this to the baseball. This has to be a part of your swing. And then my top hand puts it in the parking lot. That's my pattern. What you see a lot of young kids do is this is irrelevant. This just gets pulled across their chest, and it's, I got to get the barrel there now. So my biggest success stories for kids to get them to understand how to hit the ball up the middle the other way is to eliminate this hand. I've talked to Kevin Youkilis about this. The reason he did all of this is because he was so top hand dominant that he hooked everything as a little kid. And he almost wanted to take this off until the last second so it didn't dominate his swing. So I take all my hitters and I get them to understand this bottom hand, this one-hand drill, and kind of moving the ball up the middle, right center, inside, uncomfortable, away. And once they start to incorporate this bottom hand into their swing, it comes a lot quicker. The back head kind of cleans up, and you can start to focus on other things. That's been some of I've been doing that with my son since he was, 2. And you're trying to create lag, Wes, right? You're trying to create that, like almost like a catapult, like coming through. You don't want that.
No.
And you know what I'm saying? So that was always my biggest thing. How do you create lag and give your barrel? You hear all these young guys talk about in the current game, my barrel's in the zone for an extended period of time, which they're not lying. So how do you get it there, right? You don't just drop it there. I think it's more of a play where this hand starts to take your barrel.
Right.
The bat head replaces your hands, right? That's what they used to tell me all the time. Bat head will replace your hands. So take my hands there.
Perfect point. That's a great.
So Wes, you hear that right there. What's your thoughts?
So that's what it goes back to. Some people use the word bat lag, the lag of the bat. I always say delay the barrel. If you watch, like when Mark was talking about it, if you watch, he's like, you want to see this. It's almost like your bat's pointing straight backwards. Even though I've started to fire my hip and my hands are coming forward, my bat is not yet coming with my hands. Like, I'm sorry, not my bat. The barrel is not coming with my hands yet.
Yep.
I go back. The eyes are going to tell the barrel where to go. So if I start here, I have the delaying or the lag of the barrel. I see the pitch. Now my top hand, like you said, my top hand, boom, takes it straight to the ball. And that's how we drive the ball with a proper bat path and also palm up at contact, which you'll hear me say over and over. That's how we backspin balls, line to line. We want to backspin it. Right field line, we want to backspin it. Left field line. And that's what Mark's talking about. I always tell people this. Miguel Cabrera, I did a video for a high school one time, and I got them to understand because they just continually, they wanted to go get the ball. They wanted to think, all right, barrel. I got to get the barrel there. You know, I got to get there. I got to get there. I'm like, let me show you something. I showed them a video. I can't remember who Miguel was facing. It was like a 96 mile an hour fastball in Detroit. And the camera was from the back of the pitcher looking into home plate. So it's going to be kind of like me here. I paused Miguel Cabrera right there. Okay, I'll show you from this angle. Right here. I paused the video. The ball was literally 3/4 of the way to the plate. Okay, 3/4 of the way to the plate. So you got to think about that. I'll go 2/3. So if the mound's 60 foot 6 inches, you're looking at 30 feet away. All right. I mean, I'm sorry, 20 feet away. So the ball is 20 feet from home plate. I paused that. This is a 96 mile an hour fastball. I asked everybody in the room, I said, if I hit play, you look at Miguel Cabrera's bat, it's right here. His hip is going, his hands, he's connected, but his bat is straight back almost. I said, is he going to hit this pitch? 100% of those players said, no way he's hitting that pitch. I said, all right, sit back and watch. I hit play. That ball went from 20 feet to his bat. Right when I hit play, it went like this. His barrel went to the ball in a snap of a finger, and he hit that ball about 450 feet, probably just to the right of center field fence. So I asked the guys in the room, I said, do you understand what I'm trying to tell you every day at practice? The eyes tell the barrel where to go. You don't have to force the barrel. Getting to connection, letting this get there properly, even though the bat's delayed. If I get to this position, my eyes tell the barrel where to go in a split second. Then they started understanding, wow, I do not have to throw the barrel at the ball. I'm like, there you go. All you have to do is trust it. But so many young hitters especially, they're scared that the ball's going to beat them. The ball's going to beat them. They're not going to get the barrel there. That's one of the hardest things to get into a kid's mind is the barrel will get there. It will get there. I promise you, if everything before that works properly. So that's what Mark was saying. This drives it. This delivers it. And if we think like that in our training, which is what we teach at CamWood, everything else will fall into place if you master this in practice.
Yep, that's the main thing is even whenever I do the drills and I'm working with my players, I tell them to focus on the first move. So I'll come back here. So this drill right here, the one-hand drill with the bottom hand, this is going to teach you how to get connected right away and be able to have that proper bat path and get the proper extension through the ball, okay? So whenever I set this tee up to do this drill, because I am using a one-hander, I'm not putting this on the outside part of the plate. I'm putting this right in the middle or a little bit middle away if I'm a little bit bigger of a guy. Me, I'm 6'4", I have a little bit more of a wingspan, so I'll itch it out a little bit to where it's kind of middle away, okay? So what I always tell my players is focus on that first move, okay? Where the hands go, the barrel will follow, okay? So whenever I'm doing this drill, I'm just worried about that first move in my hands, okay? So whenever I get in my stance here, I want to make sure that my first move is this elbow right here going straight down this white line towards the pitcher. All right, so if I focus as a hitter that my first move is just boom right there, I'm going to get connected right away, and now my knob is able to follow on that path down the line, and then my barrel is naturally going to follow through the zone right here right on the sweet spot, and I'll get the proper extension through that ball with good backspin to the opposite field gap. Okay. And the reason I love one-hand drills is because if you come out away from your body, you come around this ball at all, you're going to top this and you're going to hit it right back up the middle, or you're going to have that slice on the ground to opposite field, which we don't want. Whenever we do this drill, we want to get connected first, stay inside that ball, and get the proper backspin through it to the opposite field gap. All right. That's one of the top drills that I'll do with my players. And that is exactly what Mark DeRosa was just saying that he does with a lot of his youth kids. All right. So other than another point that I want to hit on, this is something that Chipper Jones talks about. So that's the one-hand drill. Say I'm using a bigger bat. Okay. I'm using my hands and speed trainer. If I'm hitting off the tee here and I have this pitch set up middle away, whenever I hit this to teach myself how to stay inside the ball, everybody has heard the term hit the inside part of this ball, right? I want to hit the inside part of this ball to drive it to the opposite field gap. All right, well, if I'm sitting here focused on hitting the inside part of this ball, what's going to happen? I'm so fixated on that ball, this knob's going to go out away from my body to the inside part of that ball. It's going to force me to force that barrel and come around the ball, right? So the main thing I want to tell my players is whenever we're hitting off the tee to teach how to stay inside the ball, make sure that your direction is towards the pitcher, okay? Because that's where the ball is coming from in game, okay? So if I'm hitting off the tee and I'm working on driving the outside pitch to opposite field gap, I'm not worried about this ball on the tee. I'm not focused on that. I'm focused in my direction to the pitcher, okay? So if I get in my stance right here, I load, boom, I'm focused on getting connected and driving towards the pitcher first. All right, I'm connected, I'm driving to the pitcher, and then the barrel will naturally follow through that zone, and I'm perfectly on the inside part of that ball. I'll get the proper extension through it, okay? So when we're hitting off the tee, don't worry about this ball on the tee. Have the direction towards the pitcher, and it'll help you stay inside that ball a lot better, all right? Does that make sense, Wes?
That's a good point. No, that's a really good point. You explained it really well.
All right, so now, so it's talking about another thing I want to hit on is what Chipper always says is the line on the mat, right? So whenever I'm doing this drill, I'm just focusing on taking my knob or taking my elbow and that knob down the white line right here on this mat. So whenever I tell players that, they come to me and they say, well, what if I don't have this type of mat at home? Well, just put something down here. Do duct tape, do string, any type of visual that you can to really focus on taking that elbow and this knob right down that line. Boom, right there down that line. It allows me to stay inside the ball. All right.
I mean, we talk about it over and over, change, our direction, staying inside the ball. Every hitter at an elite level that has success does that. And I promise you that's what they do. And that's their whole mindset. That's their whole approach because they trust it. And that I go back to that. You have to trust it. You have to understand the barrel will get there. And Chipper, explains it perfect. I mean, you let the ball travel. You think, I'm going to stay inside the ball. I'm driving the ball to the big part of the field. And, like I go, there's a company out there now that teaches ABC, anything but center. They want pull side fly balls in the air. They want pull side air. Well, that's not going to work against elite pitching because big part of the field makes your direction go right back where it came from. So therefore, it's going to clean your path up. It's going to be able for you to hit center. It's going to enable you to hit pull side, and it's also going to enable you to hit opposite field side. So therefore, when you hear those terms, like, hey, hit the ball in the air on the pull side, I would recommend you walking away from that hitting coach because, yes, you can do that on short toss. Yes, you can do that on even BP. I mean, I could get in there right now and hit every ball in the air to the pull side on BP. But is that going to help me in the game? No, it's not going to help me in the game. I want to have my practice of staying connected, staying inside the ball. I want my practice to be geared to what's going to make me the best player I can be in the game. And that is what I want to end this with before questions is ask yourself this. When I'm working is it going to help me be the best hitter I can be in the game against every level pitcher? I'm not meaning the mediocre pitchers. I mean the elite pitchers as well. Can my cage work, can my practice work and practice on the field, BP, is that going to make me a better hitter in the game? If it's going to make you a better hitter in the game, you're doing something right. If you're doing those things in practice and you're still struggling in the game over time, then you probably need to change the way your approach and your mechanics are off the tee and off front toss. Remember, there's no egos in the cage. There are no egos. We're not trying to hit homers in the cage. We are working on muscle memory. We're working on building proper mechanics. We're working on doing the little things to make our body work the way it's supposed to. So when the game speeds us up, we don't redline and do things we shouldn't. And that's exactly the thought process you have to have behind it.